This episode with Brandon Holder is going to be eye-opening for any of you that are considering working in tactical. Remember, tactical strength and conditioning is not only working with the military. You can be working with police officers, firefighters, and this is a topic that Brandon is going to talk about. It is not only something that I am, learning about and helping educate everybody else on. It's something that I personally am looking into. I'm starting to take Brandon's advice from this episode and putting it into practice by doing some of the volunteer things, going on ride-alongs, starting to learn from the police officers that you are going to be potentially working with. Remember when you first became an intern? Maybe you're an intern right now, and you have to learn how to be a quote-unquote white belt again if you are interested in doing this. I talked about how you can start to make yourself anti-fragile if you're still working in the college sector. We talked about that on a solo podcast not too long ago. Check that out if you have not heard it. But otherwise, listen to the advice that Brandon is giving you on how you can be able to unify police and firefighters and serve a population that really needs to be served. I took this advice to heart. I know you're going to love this episode, so go ahead and enjoy it. Hit that like and subscribe button if you have not already. And without further ado, let's get to the episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Cheeky Midweeky, where we are making strength and conditioning not boring anymore. And we do that by highlighting the best practitioners in the field, regardless if it's tactical, high school, college, pro, private sector. And today we are diving down the tactical rabbit hole with Brandon Holder. Brandon, thanks for coming on, brother. Greatly appreciate it. There's a lot you could be doing, but you're here with us. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
So diving right into it, like what for you working police, what is that like? How'd you get into it?
I kind of just right place, right time, to be honest. Like most people find themselves in jobs. I was working in the private sector of strength conditioning, working with youth athletes, high school, college. I'd also worked in the collegiate sector. And at a time I was doing like basically both at the same time. So super long days, super low pay, wasn't a good quality of life. And as I was getting older, I knew if I wanted to stay into coaching, I needed to get into the tactical side. So kind of take a step back. I knew I always wanted to help people and work with people. So that's number one. But at the end of the day, as we start to progress through our careers, like we need to make a living. So tactical.
We do still have to pay bills. So you're right.
It sounds crazy, but it's a glorified thing in the field and it's getting better. But we don't need to work unpaid hours and craziness for nothing. So I knew I kind of had to make that exit out. So I was always looking into tactical. And then I was just fortunate enough to basically find myself working with the Fairfax County Police Academy through private sector. And then kind of one thing led to another. And I guess I did a good enough job there that when this position came about, we wanted to work with active PD because this is still not very common in the tactical side. You see
Correct.
FD, you see military. You don't see a lot of PD. And we're hoping that changes as time goes on and we kind of lead that front. But when that basically came available, I was already kind of in the trenches with those guys and girls, and it just made sense. I was already working with most of them just out of at a free time and trying to be a familiar face, and kind of thankfully it worked out. So a little bit of luck like everything, but also just knowing that I wanted to get into the tactical side and kind of taking the steps to reach out to people already in that field and kind of get an idea. Networking, but really just trying to make like genuine connections to see what it was about, kind of what I had to do, and volunteer my time if needed even. So
now anybody that's here, so is this going to grow? Because I want it to. Like selfishly, who was I talking to? We had Chris Myers was on the show this week, who's working with people in the Air Force and fighter pilots, and then had coaches talking like working firefighters right now, police, like this is what these people need this service. They need high performance more than athletes. Is this going to grow or what?
I think 100%. I mean, especially I'll speak mostly on the PD side, but our basically position, if you can see here, I also have the red FD flag. So we're a joint program out here in Fairfax. So FD has been crushing it for years. Jake Patton, the strength conditioning coordinator here, has been basically kind of being a trailblazer and doing that for the last 6 years.
Good for him.
We're basically kind of getting a little late to the party, but catching up on the PD side. And it's something that even as sporadically and quickly as it seems to be growing, when you look on social media and you talk to other coaches, it's going to be a while because there's a lot of agencies out there, and a lot of agencies do not have the resources to bring on like a actual professional. It's usually like an officer who likes fitness, and that's kind of their fitness guy or girl, and that's great. But like you need a trained professional. You need someone to kind of keep everybody in one piece. And our big push is it definitely is needed just as much as you would see like a high performance like collegiate facility or pro setting, because this is therapy for these guys and girls. Like this is more the mental, and that's our number one push is like, yeah, it's cool if you do better in the field and they get more physically fit to do all the things we think of when we think of policing, like chase bad guys, be in the field, run, climb, jump. But it's that getting to retirement, it's dealing with the day-to-day stressors of the job. Like that's number one. And that's really like, that's where people kind of fight in this sector. Like that's where the officers that we work with, like that's what they care about. Like, yeah, they want to be physically fit, but at the end of the day, they just want to feel better mentally, take care of themselves, and make it to that retirement and enjoy it.
Hearing you say that though, about like, okay, it's like if that sector doesn't have the funds, that's literally how strength and conditioning started though. Originally it was the head football strength coach, right? Or the head football coach was the head strength coach, or is the basketball or like the assistant basketball coach. Like it's unfortunate that it's taking longer, but I'm optimistic hearing that it might just be on the same path.
Yeah, I'm tend to be more optimistic, even though it can be tough sometimes when, like I said, you look at these smaller agencies. But I do think it's something that's starting to change. I mean, I'll look at more agencies or talk to other coaches in kind of similar settings, and athletic trainers are starting to pop up, nutritionists. It is one thing that like we're very fortunate, like where I'm at, because we have an AT on staff, we have PT, we have a nutritionist, we have 3 strength coaches. Like we are extremely fortunate, and we're hoping that this can kind of like be an example and kind of be a model to other agencies, because at the end of the day it's putting an investment back in your people. Like no matter what the situation's going on, like this isn't like a college or even like the pro setting where you maybe have someone for, let's say, 10 years if we're going to be generous. Like these people are going to be here, I'm hoping 20 plus years. We get to see them from the second they come on into our academy, and then we see them as they progress throughout their career. And it's a long-term approach, but that's what needs to happen if we're going to have a successful 20, 25 year plus program and get these people, like I said, to actually get to the finish line.
Okay. So I just looked at it. It was Connor Freeland is what we talked about it. And like the fire trucks and again, same thing. So that's what I was thumbing through in terms of like the longevity. So you're the ones training them during their academy training. And then when they graduate, like, and if they move, so you talked about that, with you for 20 years, like talk about a different long-term athletic development model that you have to have, and talk about like, you might have somebody that's at the end versus somebody that's at the beginning. So you need progressions, you need regressions. So I'm asking a lot right now, but how often do people move? How long do they stay with you? And then how do you handle that extreme periodization gap? Because that's a lot of work. Keeping your certification is essential to staying hired as a strength and conditioning coach. Both of our long form courses, Fundamentals 1 and Fundamentals 2, offer CEUs to the NSCA, the NCSF, as well as the ASCA professional development points. Click the link down below to learn more about our education courses, which are both over 20 hours long and allow you to learn from some of the best practitioners in the field of strength and conditioning.
Yeah, and it's totally dependent. So like academy is a great example, and we have a coach out of our academy who handles all of that. His name is Guillermo del Toro. He does a great job working out of the academy, and his is like a controlled environment. Academy was like a great introduction to this world because it is a place where you can do like periodization. Like I'm going to have them for 6 months, and even though my gaps are pretty big, at least I know I'm going to have them X amount of days a week, and I can do it like a more traditional training model. When we start looking at our other officers, they do move around a lot. Guys and girls, our department is 9 different stations. We got about 1,400 officers, and we do work with and this is just count PD, not FD. FD is about similar. We have about 300 civilian staff that we'll work with from time to time, or they have the opportunity to work with us rather. And it's not like I'm running workouts for 1,700 people. It's more of a situation where we try to show them they have the resources and they'll come to us. And then basically we'll do ways to send out programming and things like that, and try to keep them active. So it isn't like I have my hands on these people, throughout their whole time here. It is a thing that they kind of have to come to us, and we have to make ourselves available and really try to educate and spread out. Because even like our department, like we're in Northern Virginia, right outside DC. Our farthest department, if I wanted to get there, like right now, would probably take me an hour and some change. So it's not like I can just like pop in the car and go, and we're doing our best to get out to the stations. I was actually at a station right before here. So basically just at the station, talking to the guys and girls, and it goes a long way with them, because it's the only way we can make those connections, and hopefully then they can kind of, start to come to us and trust us and go from there. Because it is tough. Like I said, it's not this perfect model. We do our best to kind of reach out and expand. But in a class setting, for example, if we are doing something, or if a team wants to come in and train together, I might have an officer who's pushing 50, and I might have one in the same group pushing 20, low 20s. And it's one of those things where, yes, education has to be there, but they're just there for an hour. I'm not going to do a whiteboard talk. It's kind of finding the things that fit them best. A lot of officers kind of follow a similar like archetype. Like shoulders are usually pretty crummy, low back, just from the nature of the job. But we try to stress upon like there's no exercise you have to do, because especially a lot of these guys have trained, and girls have trained the wrong ways over the years. You know what I mean? Like a lot of volume, a lot of like basically just train until you can't walk out of the gym. A lot of back issues. And they're a little defensive. It's showing them options like, hey, you can do a belt squat. You can do, we can do trap bar deadlifts. Like we don't do a lot of the major, like the barbell based movements with a lot of our officers, because they're maybe on the fence about it. And it's one of those things where like they're not a power lifter. They're not an athlete where we kind of have to do certain things. Athletes have to do they have to play the sport and have to win. But even these people more often, because I don't mean this by like any disrespect towards them, but they're essentially Gen Pop who just have above average like job requirements. You know what I mean? But they're just everyday people. So it's like if an exercise is going to cause you pain or cause you discomfort, or maybe isn't the most appropriate for you, we don't have to do that. We can do so many other ways to go about this. Why are we like beating our head into this desk because you want to do a barbell bench press, but like wrecks you every day? So that's kind of how we go about it. So if we do a workout, like we're just going to squat today. Your squat's going to look different than mine, than his, than hers. We try to just keep a few, because I don't want chaos just running around, but that's kind of the way we have to go about it. A good way that I'll explain our program to officers is when we send out our programs like digitally throughout the departments, it's going to serve 85% of our officers. 85% of people, they're going to get their mobility. They're going to get their strength training that's appropriate to them. And it's going to be like on a logical progression scheme. We're not going to just like start with like sets of 20 and go from there. They're going to get some kind of conditioning component, and it's going to be controlled, because that's something that we really have to kind of pull back, is the conditioning aspect for police officers. I love the attitude of some guys and girls, but it's like, if you're so tired that you can't go out to the field, that's a bad day. It could be an awkward conversation. So it's going to cover all those bases. Now there's probably 15% who maybe have like really specific needs. You meet people that have kind of really crazy injuries. They're coming over. I spoken to people that have been hit by motor vehicles. I've spoken to people who've been in, falling from different heights of like fences, things of that nature, like things you're not going to get talking to a regular person. And it's like, those are the 10, 15 or 20 to 15%, where we need to get with our PT. We need to be a little more specialized just for like your comfort, you know what I mean? And get you back into it. I know that, I hope that made sense jumping around a little bit, but
no, it did.
Perfect way to this.
It did. And it kind of made me think too, like, okay, hearing about the academy system overseas in terms of if they have, a soccer team, football for anybody that's listening now, apologies, but soccer here in the States, like, or even rugby, where they have to disseminate these programs up and down. Or another example for us here in the States is minor league baseball. So I have some friends that are minor league baseball coordinators and it's like they have to be able to handle from AAA all the way down to single A, and it's even harder for you because you have more groups of people that are more locations, but having it go from older to younger in multiple locations, and sometimes like you all have to make sure you're all on the same exact page as you're disseminating that information. And you have to, like, anybody listening, this is even more why you all have to use the same terminology. Like, you couldn't be like, all right, I'm calling it a lunge and I'm calling it a split squat or something. It's like people are just going to get confused. Like, you got to be on the same page.
Yeah, 100% on the terminology. And like, we're thankful, like, our team, is around each other all the time, even though we're going out to different stations, locations, different agencies. We're always communicating, and with that same idea and mindset. And then at least anything we send out, 9 times out of 10, we try to have like digital content. We try to be as specific as we can.
Do you guys utilize TeamBuildr? I'm going to interrupt. I apologize.
So we utilize Bridge currently. That's been a big help. Even like we'll have like YouTube Connect, like it's old school, but like some officers don't want to be on their phone. So just like sending hyperlinks to people. And that's a big thing too, like of just trying to always meet people where they are with the exercises, but also just meeting people where they are with like getting them into the exercise. Because if using Bridge or TeamBuildr or whatever it may be, like they're amazing apps and they make our jobs a lot easier. Like truly, like it takes a lot of stress off my plate. Yeah. If an officer, and it sounds silly, like if an officer though doesn't want his phone or her phone in the weight room, there's other ways I have to kind of communicate that to them. And there's only so many ways I can try, of course, but it's meeting them kind of where they're at on that metric as well. But it's definitely helped a lot just to get things out to reach kind of the masses. And it's helped because it's also creating a sense of community to a degree, like digitally. Like that's the number one thing that we preach, like about our main hub, our main building is it doesn't matter. And even at stations, if I go do a workout at a station, like it doesn't matter really what's going on. You can kind of leave everything at the door. You can come in here for an hour. You can just focus on training and kind of, you're around like-minded people. You're around fellow firefighters, fellow police officers. And it's a really like powerful thing of that community they're building. And that's what keeps people coming back and keeps it engaged. And honestly, it's something like we'll hear it from our officers and our firefighters. It's something that they can connect to in the field. Because if like you and I work out together in this 6 o'clock group, we may not know each other very well, but if I want to call and I see you, like, you're different, you're with FD, I'm PD or whatever it may be. It's like, hey, like, it just makes the actual job bonding better. And that at the end of the day is what we're trying to create. Like, we're just trying to create a one team, kind of deal.
That makes a ton of sense. And I didn't even think about the fact of like, there's going to be that many people and like, shoot, the reality of like, y'all might be showing up to, a scene, whether it's a crime scene or whether it's a fire or something. And like, hey man, like how, like, that's why I'm kind of speechless right now is like, that's a great point in terms of building that camaraderie for a practice. So anybody that's listening, I put it in air quotes, like, cause that's the game. That's the event that you're trying to prepare them for.
Yeah, no, it's something, it's amazing. Like when we hear it from them, cause that's something like, we can't connect to as like civilian.
No, we have no like
that's something only they'll ever understand. And it's like an awesome feeling when they're like, yeah, I saw so-and-so like out there, or like they will do like training together. Like they'll do that, like their actual like tactical practice, like they'll do that together as well. And it just creates, it's just a better overall experience for everyone. Cause then, they're not like, it's not PD, FD, it's again, one team. There's at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all just want to be safe on the job, to go home, and to take care of those that we're responding to. So,
velocity-based training is important to use with your athletes. However, you want to make sure you're using VBT at the right time with the right athletes. That's why you need to get in touch with the folks at Vitruve. At Vitruve, they're going to be able to help you with the proper tools to monitor VBT, but they're also going to be able to make sure that you're using it properly. It is often misunderstood, and that is why the folks at Vitruve will make sure that the tools that you use from them are accurate and they're reliable, but also making sure that you're implementing it with the right athletes. Check out Vitruve in the link down below. Hawkin Dynamic is the best option if you're trying to get any force plate data or if you're trying to collect any isometric mid-thigh pulls. Not only can you do isometric mid-thigh pulls for the lower body, but I call it an isometric mid-thigh pull for your upper body, where you're able to do an isometric push-up into something where your back is pushing into a bar and your hands are on the force plate. I utilized Hawkins force plates and Hawkins software when I was at Towson. Still utilize it now when I'm at Goldfinch. If you're using the other competitors, I don't know what you're doing. Hawkins customer service is second to none. Hawkins software and their hardware, again, second to none. Check them out in the link down below. Keeping your certification is essential to staying hired as a strength and conditioning coach. Both of our long form courses, Fundamentals 1 and Fundamentals 2, offer CEUs to the NSCA, the NCSF, as well as the ASCA professional development points. Click the link down below to learn more about our education courses, which are both over 20 hours long and allow you to learn from some of the best practitioners in the field of strength and conditioning. What anybody listening at this point, they're like, all right, so what does it look like? What does training? Is there max velo work? Is there like, what are you guys doing? Like,
it's not as exciting as you would think. It is pretty, and I don't mean basic in a bad way, but like I said, at the end of the day, they're Gen Pop. Like, there are people that we'll meet that have never really done any structured strength training in their lives. So it's like, it's teaching how to squat, it's teaching that. Now there are, I don't want to just focus on that side, because we have the guys and girls that can roll. You know what I mean? They do things and you're like, Jesus Christ, I don't know what to do for you. It's one of those things where it's like, you can't hurt yourself. You know what I mean? Like, we need to pull you back. Ooh, that is the majority. That is definitely the majority of, like, we need to keep you safe. Like, it's cool that I know you can do this. It's like, you don't have to do this. And trying to get them to kind of understand that as well. Like, when the time, like, if it's appropriate and the stove's hot, we'll cook, but we don't need to cook all the time. You know, that kind of mindset. But just the fundamental movement patterns. We're going to press, we're going to pull, we're going to squat, hinge, single leg work. The conditioning is going to vary. Like, it's one of those tough things too, because if they're coming to us, it's because they don't have to come to us at the end of the day. If they're coming to us in person, I gotta keep that in mind. Like, this isn't a requirement. Like, they're coming to us because they want to. So even if, like, they need to do something like steady state cardio, they need to do this. Like, it's, if you come to me and you want to train me for an hour and I told you to get on a treadmill and I left you alone, you'd be like, I'm not coming back. You know what I mean? Like, screw that guy. So, we'll do like mixed modality conditioning. We'll do. I hate to use the word functional because I feel like it's overused, but that's how we define the program. It is a structured functional training program. We're very fortunate. We have a large facility enough to do sled drags, sled pushes, throws. So, I mean, training is training. Like, if you looked at it, you would be like, that's maybe how I train my sports team. We just have to be a lot smarter with some of our progressions. You talked about, like, max velo. So especially, like, looking at speed and power, that is a whole kind of different approach. Most of the people we work with, one, they've never been exposed to that kind of work. They've never, built up. Maybe they weren't even an athlete in the past. And it's kind of what they need. Like, I'll talk about PD specifically. Like, yeah, they give them foot pursuits, but unfortunately, there's never a planned foot pursuit. Like, a foot pursuit happens just in the car when you're just kind of, you know what I mean? It's you don't know you're going to get in a foot pursuit 9 times out of 10. So it's not like we could do this warm up and go. So, like, our power based exercises, we'll rely on a lot of throws. We'll rely on a lot of things that have low risk, high reward, and try to progress those. So, like, sleds are our friends. If we have the ability, we'll train at our headquarters location that has a ramp outside, and that's our hill sprint. Basically things where I don't want to say they can't hurt themselves, because that would be a challenge. they find a way, but it's things that we still get our bang for our buck, but, like, I don't have to worry all the time. Even things like jumping rope, like, that's a very, like, low, just plyo for them, just getting that rhythm going through a jump rope. We will do things like box jumps, and it all depends. The thing that is a little different in this field is, like, there's not a lot of, like, specificity. Very rarely do I meet like at the end of the day, like, they have to be extremely well-rounded, but we will meet with people from time to time that, like our helicopter unit, for example, like, they have to leave the helicopter. That is a depth drop in gear, essentially. So that's something where maybe we do a little bit more foot ankle work for those individuals. But it's still just focused on, like, building up slowly, and it happens, and people are people, whether they're first responders or not. Like, you've ever been to like a family barbecue, like the uncle starts talking and then you start racing and then someone's grabbing their leg and like, things will happen, but it's trying to keep them, with that program. But, shit happens.
Hearing you talk about have you heard us talk about the power complex before? I'm not here to like assume that you have.
I don't
instead of
so.
instead of doing Olympic lifts, and this is something that I learned about on a cheeky midweeky with Jeff Jones. He's the director of strength and conditioning at Arkansas State. He was at App State before that. But instead of doing like a hang power clean or a power clean, you just break it up into parts. So you would do an RDL, right? You can RDL more than you can do a hang clean. If you wanted to replicate a clean, so the bars on the ground, you would do a deadlift, a clean grip deadlift instead. Then you'd put the weight down. You'd go and do a weighted jump, either with dumbbells, barbells, trap bar, and you would probably do that for the same number of reps. So it gives you that like triple extension against weight. And then you would end it with the altitude landing, because the altitude landing ground reaction forces are higher than the ground reaction forces of catching a clean. So now you've broken it into its constituent parts. But like you just said, you're getting the highest ROI with the least amount of risk. And like you just said, you're dealing with Gen Pop people. So I did it with the football team, and the guys were still putting out, great vertical jumps and fast 10-yard dashes. So that's what, like, the reason I'm saying this to you is because I learned about it from Jeff, and I was like, I have to tell everybody about this, because this finally is the way that you can get rid of cleans. It's not only a weighted jump, it's all three of them make it really good.
Yeah, and that's awesome. That's something I'll definitely try and keep in the back pocket, because we do have a lot of like officers who like to Olympic weightlift. And again, I'm just a resource at the end of the day. Now, if there's like chance of injury or something, I step in, but I get a lot of folks that just come in and just want to talk training. They're like, I'm doing this. I have issues with the catch position, and it's like, you're a grown up. Like, I can't tell you not to do this, but I try to offer the positives. I have no dog in the fight, so I give what I honestly think and why it's good, why it's bad, and then that's something that I could kind of really feel that need. Because at the end of the day, I don't even necessarily care about ankling. They just care about, because they think that's the tool to get them to get the power. And there's a lot of tools,
And so for me, one of the reasons that I wanted to is there's, kids that had wrist surgery. Like, I had a kid who he got signed an undrafted free agent deal with the Tennessee Titans. He had a wrist surgery in high school, has a plate in it, and could never get beyond like just a vertical or a perpendicular to the ground elbow. And so before I learned about the power complex, he used to high pull. And then because he literally just couldn't catch a clean, and he never did a real clean. And, he still had a legit 40-inch vertical and like could run really fast. So I guess I don't really have a dog in the fight either. Cause like you said, a well done clean, like, my goodness, it's gorgeous. Right. So like if they can do that, but if you can't, like, hey, do this instead.
Yeah. That's really the only time when I like go in and I try to like, cause again, they're grown adults and a lot, and think about some of the people that I have to go talk to, and you have to give tough love from time to time, but I try to let them explain to me. They're like, it hurts when I do it. I'm like, well, why does it hurt? And they're like, well, there's too much weight on there. I'm like, well, maybe go down and weight. Try to like steer them into that direction. But yeah, anything, exercise and just fitness in general is one of the strange things where people always think like more is better, where if any other field or situation, if you like paid more for something or did something for more, like for just the same return, you know what I mean? Like, if I invested more money and I only got the same return, I didn't have to invest that much money. It would, you would call me an idiot. But with exercise, I think if I crawl out of the gym, like I'm gonna somehow get better results, and that can only take you so far before you end up broken, one of the two.
Dude, that was an absolute, like, I wrote that down, like, because it's so true. Why is it in exercise that is the way that it's viewed?
Yeah, I literally had the conversation a couple hours ago with one of the officers at that station, and it's the only field that I can think of that's like that. Like any other place, when I was like, you don't have to do as much, or
you literally want to get the, like, buy low, sell high. Like you want to do the least to get the most, except in
Exactly.
our field, it is some reason the opposite.
Yeah, it is. Like I get like the mental portion because I meet a lot of people where they're like that's my escape. Like I train 7 days a week, and they'll tell me like I know it's not smart, like, but that's like how I deal with things. And I'm like, that's amazing. I'm glad you found something productive to deal with those things because we're not here to tell them that. You know what I mean? Like there's much worse ways you could deal with your problems, but then try to think you don't need to work out for 2 hours, man. Like just 30 minutes hard or something, and then go on with the day or whatever it may be for you. But there is that mental piece that like people can't get by that. And it's just like everyday people, like they want to feel like they did something as well. But that's where kind of like us as the staff and the professionals can help with that. You know what I mean? We can offer different, maybe less risky movements, same reward or whatever it may be off of you. Maybe something small as well. So
Hearing you talk earlier, I wrote this down. The whole notion of they can push, but they can't push. Like you're in almost worse than like pro and college world because you can't have a bunch of police officers that literally can't go out and do their job. Like you have to be like, so how do you handle that pressure of doing enough, making sure that they're prepared, but like, yeah, like you don't want a bunch of injured cops. Like,
yeah, it's tough, and most of them like we do have the blessing that like they get paid wellness, so they can work out on shift if the schedule or before shift. And a quick story because it made me think of it when you brought that up. I was working with an officer at the previous station I was at, like very very big, strong gentleman, like in shape. And we were doing like pause squats or something and squatted perfect. So I was like, okay, like we can go back squat. You feel all right. And just kept loading weight. And then I just got to the point where I was like when do I say, like we got to find it. And he was crushing it. And I was like, we have to find that right note. And then, it did get to the point I'm like, you have to work a shift today. And he's like, oh, this is all I'm doing. And still like was fresh. And so it is an individual aspect. And to give some backstory, that gentleman, does do like strength sports. And that still was a light day for him. But, he's smart and monitors himself. I just wasn't ready for it. Like no one told me like, hey, this guy's going to squat a house here soon. Like, you know what I mean? There was no forewarning. I thought we were just going to hit maybe 225, call it a day. So most of them do it themselves because they're professionals. I mean, you're literally getting paid for this and you're getting paid for wellness and they're smart off of that. But it is coming to the conversation when they come to we'll have people attend like our classes, for example, like 5 days a week. And they may be coming in new to exercise and they just want to hit it hard again. Like they haven't worked out for a while, whatever, years go by, kids, etc. And it is one of those things where we have to have a conversation like, hey, you need rest. This is why. And thankfully, as long as we can articulate that, they will listen. We haven't, had any situations where, officers don't kind of take that professional advice from us. We would much rather have it that way. As like, they want to keep pushing, then like we have to, kind of put our foot on the acceleration for them. And we'll do things where we're just putting them into kind of like constraints for that. It's like, hey, we're only going to work up to maybe, if it is a percentage, we don't deal with percentages a lot. But if something were like percentage of body weight, like we might do a farmer's carry challenge, for example, we've done. And you're only going to work up to this certain amount of weight. I don't want you deadlifting 400 pounds off the ground to carry it off of today, even though you can. It's one of those things where, well, what's the purpose of today? So we'll do something off of maybe body weight, and that gives them that number. The big thing for us is the competition. That's what we kind of have to, we try to select things where if we do competition, it's, exercises where it's like, we're not doing a lot of strength-based competitions. A lot of our competitions are working with ergs, like bike erg, row erg, ski erg, assault bikes. We may do competitions within inner squads of like isometrics, chin up numbers, things like that. Like we really aren't like doing a lot of like clanging and banging with like barbell work competitions. Because the beauty of this is majority of the people we work with are those type A too competitive individuals, and we want to build that. Like we want to like foster that fire and like keep that burning. It's just finding ways to do it like intelligently. And most of the people, like, they don't really care so much. Majority of the people about like the weight on the bar, like they just want to win. it's a blessing and a curse. We were talking about this the other day. We have like a peer fitness trainer course. We like kind of train up our cops and firefighters to kind of be extensions of us. Talking about recovery, like I've gone out and done like foam rolling recovery, kind of like seminars, if you will, with like stations, and they will literally like fight and try to like breathe better. Like we'll do box breathing, and they'll be like, "I will breathe better than you," and I'm like, "Well, like that's not the point, bro." Like, I don't know if you're like not even being like funny, like being like serious. You're like,
oh no, I'm laughing because I can see it being like I am gonna get amped up to prove that I'm more calm than you. It's like,
and part of me is like, hell yeah, like and then I'm like, whoa, no, this is not the point of it. So it's just kind of steering that how we want. And it's like I said, I'm not here like even like that situation, like it's funny, but it was a perfect segue into like explaining like how real recovery works and stuff. But that's like, it's awesome because that's what makes them who they are. Like we're pretty blessed that the people that come in, like they want to be there. And even the people that like I go out and see in the field, like, you know, they understand there's responsibility to take care of themselves for the, you know, the betterment of the job and the community and themselves, number one, because they can't do any of the other stuff if they're not in a good shape. So it makes our jobs easier in regards to that competitive nature.
So I wrote this down as you were talking about it in terms of, like you said, the groups and the training. Do you think that private sector background, like, would you, if you're looking to train your athletes in person or remote, you need to make sure that you're utilizing TeamBuildr. I have had TeamBuildr since 2019 and still utilize it with my remote athletes. This makes everything simple, from the ability to program, have videos right there, wellness questionnaires. Loved being able to have it in person at the rack at Towson, and being able to have it in person now at Goldfinch. This has made my life easier as a coach. If you're still printing on paper, I don't know what you're doing. If you have a different software company, again, I don't know what you're doing. Check out TeamBuildr down in the link below. Are you expanding and need more equipment inside your current room? Or are you building a new weight room and you need to get some equipment? You need to look no further than Powerlift. I had Powerlift equipment when I was at Harvard, Iowa, and at the University of Maryland. I'm currently utilizing their stuff right now. I'm telling you, Powerlift strong, Powerlift made here in America, here in the great state of Iowa, made, manufactured. You have the ability for customization, whether it's on the bench, whether it's on the upholstery, whether it's on the bumpers, across the rack. There are countless options, making sure it's designed to your specific brand. It's Powerlift made, it's Powerlift strong, it's not cheap like all the other competitors, and the people inside of Powerlift are people that you want to be with. Check them out in the link down below. Keeping your certification is essential to staying hired as a strength and conditioning coach. Both of our long-form courses, Fundamentals 1 and Fundamentals 2, offer CEUs to the NSCA, the NCSF, as well as the ASCA professional development points. Click the link down below to learn more about our education courses, which are both over 20 hours long and allow you to learn from some of the best practitioners in the field of strength and conditioning. Are you or your athletes waking up too hot or too cold in the middle of the night? Or are you looking for a sleep tracker option that doesn't involve wearing a ring or a wrist or a watch, something on your body? Then you need to look no further than the company Sleepme. Sleepme makes Chilipads, which keep your bed cold or warm depending on what you want, and they also have a tracker that will go underneath that pad, so it will be able to tell how well you slept. When I did a little study on myself with the Oura Ring and with the Sleepme tracker, they were within 97% of each other, and it was actually pretty astonishing how similar the two were. I love my Chilipad. It makes me sleep great. I sleep cold. I actually wake up cold now. I haven't woke up warm. And pretty much ever since I've had it, I don't like sleeping on the road because I don't have the ability to use my Chilipad. Bunch of former colleagues back at Towson got it. My stepmother got it. Check it out in the link down below. Was that the key to, because it sounds like you're kind of running private sector, except you're just located in, you know, a PD and FD, right?
Yeah, honestly, I love that you brought that up because I think that is 100% like helped me in transition to this position. It is like private sector. Not even going from like the Gen Pop piece, but like I know in one of your previous talks with like Costa about like transitioning the tactical field, like going from like collegiate and stuff. Like I love being on the floor. I love working with people face to face. Like that's the most efficient means. But like a lot of things in my role are administrative, and I was fortunate to get a lot of that experience in the private sector. I mean, a lot of like the coaches out there listening who are in the private sector. It's not the same off of sales, but you're probably familiar with like, you have to sell yourself to, that's how you eat. You know what I mean? Like I don't eat if I don't have people come in. It's something that I hated during the time, but it definitely helped me here. And it's different. It's not like if I'm not getting paid like per officer or firefighter comes in, but like we have to sell our program to these people. You know what I mean? It's in the private sector, your skin in the game, if you will, or your currency is money, which is very powerful. If I'm paying you money for something, I want my return. I want what I'm paying for. With these individuals we're working with, it's not money because this is all provided as part of you being a first responder here. Their currency is literally their skin, their skin in the game, like their lives is their currency, is the way we try to push it. And that's usually kind of gets that quick. Because I'm sure we've all like had someone reach out to us for a workout program and like, you just send me a program, like we can just like snap and write a program for nothing. And usually my experience is that people that just randomly want workout programs and don't pay for them, don't do them because there's no, why am I going to do it?
Correct. Yeah.
It's tough because they're not paying with that currency, but it's, again, you could be paying with something much more important, much deeper than currency. Like this is your life, this is your health, and getting them to understand that, to buy in, because it is in such a big department, in such a department that's so vast. Like it does come to numbers sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like we have to reach all these people. Like I at least in some capacity, they have to know at least they have this opportunity. They can kind of take advantage of this, and we're a little unique in that. Like if there's other coaches out there or coaches in the future who go to like a smaller agency, maybe you just have one or two stations, and like you can really always bond with your officers, and it might be a totally different experience. So like for this situation specifically, private sector has definitely helped so much, like just for my day-to-days.
The other question that I wrote down then is on the flip side, this is from my example in the college sector, do you think having the officers or higher ups maybe going to HQ and telling them like, hey, this is how valuable Brandon is, and this is like, and I equate it to the same way at Towson, we got Catapult for free because we had a trial units, and we got men's basketball, football, men's lacrosse, women's soccer, all telling the AD like, hey, we need to do this. And we kind of got them hooked. And then that was able to, magically funds started to appear. Do you think that can be a way that anybody that's listening and trying to get a foothold, is that a possible way about it going?
I think that's like the main way to go about it, especially depending on how that like hierarchy in the organization works. Like the people from the top need to understand in any situation, but especially in these tactical situations, the importance, getting them involved in workout programs. Like our leaders will be in workout programs. They will be in classes. They see it firsthand. And not only does it spread like wildfire when someone does have success, we're always very appreciative when they go and like spread the good word and kind of do like what they did for you, which is, I mean, that's what we all want as coaches, is we try to like, give a piece of us into them, and they, kind of take care of us on that side as well. So we can ultimately turn that back around and do what's better for them. But definitely going to the top, like it has to go from there. And then it kind of just, it's just trickled down, it's really a key there. And that can be a tough thing for certain organizations. You know what I mean? But they need to see it. They need to see both sides of it. They need to see, the objective numbers. They need to see that things like injury rates are down. They need to see at our academy. They need to see that people are taking advantage of the resources. They need to see money being saved. But what they also need to see is the subjective. They need to see like Bobby, who they've known for years, who struggled with his weight, and now he's coming out. He's looking better. He's healthy. He's healthier. He's happier. They need to see those as well, because that's what's going to really hit them kind of in the chest. And then all the numbers, of course, have to match, because that's going to hit them, up top. So it is that kind of two-pronged approach for that. But, the leadership has to be involved. And you have to kind of go there. And, again, just kind of to the private sector, in the collegiate sector as well. At the end of the day, we're all selling our program. It's just not all related to money. You still do it in the college sector. But they need to grasp that.
Well, Glenn Revel, who was on the show, his episode came out last week. He was talking, I mean, if you're working in the high school, college, or pro, like you're a bottom line on a budget. Like, so that's where you have to prove to your superiors, like, hey, I'm still doing my job. So yeah, maybe each police officer is not paying you, but the police station. They're paying you to take care of them. Like in the same way that, if you work in college, like you have to be proving to the administration that you are continuing to do your job and you're getting your athletes strong. And that's why, utilizing programs to track the strength and the power of all your athletes is important so you can sell it. We never realized it that way. And Allie Kirshner talked about that when she was on the show last year or 2 years ago, where you even have to sell it if you're working in college to get these kids to go sprint or lift heavy. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody.
100%. Every day is just, convincing people to do what they should be doing
when they don't want to do it.
What they don't want to do. Exactly. Yeah. It's no different. So the only thing I would say is, like I said, getting that leadership, that buy-in, it is a beautiful thing where it'd be a scary thing too, depending on who you are. But when you're in a class, it doesn't matter who you're in there in that class. To go back to I was talking about our building and its community, rank and structure go out the window there. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're a higher up chief. It doesn't matter if you're, just first year officer. If you're there together, you're all sweating together. We're all in in it together. And it's something that's I think powerful as well. And I don't want to say it's a safe place per se. It may not be the most correct term or what I'm trying to explain it as, but it's a place where you're all equal in there. You know what I mean? The exercise doesn't care. I don't want to say the barbell don't care.
The iron don't lie, as they say, right?
So it's something that's very powerful, and that ultimately can stem a lot of positive morale throughout the departments.
What's been the hardest part about your job?
Hardest part? It's kind of two pieces. I'm an outsider to policing. I'm not a police officer, clearly. I'm not family in policing, so just getting the understanding of it. I'm sure you've spoken to other coaches on here who maybe work in different government sectors, but literally just the lingo and the culture is totally different. And it takes time to build that. I may go somewhere and be housed at a station for a month, and it may take me the entire month to just get a conversation with an individual. And it's not because there's anything wrong with that individual. It's just because it's just a different culture. You know what I mean? And I'm an outsider to that. So that's a big piece of just kind of understanding it. I was fortunate that I was put in positions to understand it, going on ride-alongs. I try to be as visible as I can. That's another big thing I would say to coaches wanting to get into really any field. Even when I was in collegiate, I would go to track practices. I would go to lacrosse practices and watch. But in this field, especially, because they don't really care what I know. They don't care they don't know what a CSCS is. They don't know, they don't care about any of that knowledge. They just care that we understand what they go through in the day-to-day, and that we can never be in it because we're never going to be officers, but we can at least view it. So going on ride-alongs helped me with that. Going to stations in general, I got to do some pretty cool things. I won't lie. There's worse days you can have at your job to go out and hang out with some of the specialty units, things like that. So it's also just cool personally, but it does have a purpose because some of these groups, they're very tight knit. They have to trust each other. Why are they going to listen to me? If I put my neck on the line though, and I put myself in a situation and I fail and they see me go through their training though, that creates a little bit more trust. All right, he's a decent guy. He's willing to do what we just did. You know what I mean? No matter what that may be and how painful it may be at times, but it really helps trust. So that kind of expedited that for me personally, and it made my job a little easier with some people. The second part of that, if I can have two parts, it's just finding the ways to continue to reach out to the other department. Like you asked earlier, how often movement happens. Movement happens often, so it's tough if we start to build rapport and then you get moved somewhere, or the pieces are always moving on the chessboard, and we have to keep up, and we have to keep kind of ahead. So we have to have kind of systems in place. So if things do change, we can continue training. We have to have systems in place that if administratively we change, that we can keep up with whatever projects we're working on. So that's a hard piece, and there's no perfect answer to that. It's just trying to keep up ahead of the all the steps going forward.
No, I do. And I wrote down from Costa's episode, the 3-6-9 thing, where he was like, first 3 months, keep your mouth shut, 6 months, or the next 3 months. So within 6 months, you can be like, hey, I think I have the answer. And then you keep your mouth shut. And then after that, like after 9 months, you're allowed to have an opinion.
Yeah, it is that was spot on when I heard him say that going through. It's completely right, and especially at the beginning, like there's so much to take in anyway. So like, why am I going to talk anyway? He's like, I'm just taking notes on like like what this acronym means, what this is, and just trying to keep my head above water. And then it finally. I always tell people like when things change, I'm like, well, I just got comfortable with how it was before. So, like, that's why. You know what I mean? Like that's why it happened. So, and I know that's something that like that's why I get two answers. Like I don't want that to be like a cop out answer of like, what do you mean like that? But it is a big deal because I can't do the job if I don't understand the people and things like that. Like I can study their movements, I can understand all this like training analysis of like what the job is. But again, that's not what gets me into the door. What gets me in the door is we build a relationship. You know what I mean? And that takes time.
What about what's the most gratifying? Like what's the most fulfilling part of it?
When I got into tactical, I did love like the private sector. Like I love working with youth athletes because you see growth and development. When I got into the tactical side, a lot of like peers of mine did tell me like it's tough because you don't always get that gratification because it's just different. You're working with adults, people move around so much, etc. I haven't found that at my position. Like I do get people that are grateful. You know what I mean? That show that and you can make lasting like impacts for. And just know like we're just a small piece of this puzzle. Like I'm a very, very small piece of the puzzle that makes up like our program here and like what they have to offer to take care of our first responders. But it is something that I feel proud of if, an officer comes in, they're dealing with an issue and we can just make their lives just a little bit better or just offering that escape. Like I said, I don't mean to keep like bringing it up, but it really is like the number one thing is that our program is this therapy. You know what I mean? Maybe they may not talk about what's going on in their lives or things that have built up to a therapist, but they will go and they will work out and sweat and be with other people, similar mindsets to kind of let that go. It's like, that's the most like rewarding thing, whether they tell me that, or I can see it like visually, just the difference in it. And we're fortunate we get to deal with our like return to action or return to play, like officers coming off injuries and things like that. And that can just be a tough time as well. It's like you'll see a lot with those people. And then just seeing also the development of them specifically. I'm no longer at our academy. Like I said, our coach out there does a great job and he's currently there operating that. But it's always nice to see like one of our recruits or one of the classes when I was at our academy doing great in the field. Like I'll go out to the field and see them. They're like, so-and-so is doing good. Like they're crushing it. And I'm like, that's awesome. Thank God. Cause I was worried, you know what I mean? Or whatever it may be, so that's really rewarding. And it's starting to get to the point now where even like at one of our recent SWAT schools, like one of my first recruits I ever worked at was in the SWAT school and then passed the SWAT school to be on our supplemental team. And it's like, that's awesome. Like that guy, he's earned it and he's worked for it. And it's kind of seeing that. And it is different because in college, you get people 4 or 5 years or so, maybe more now, but you can see them grow and develop. Yes. But it's not the same than when I'm seeing like this over a longer period of years. So I'm excited to see like where some of these people end up in hopefully 5-10 years in their careers, if they keep making the progress and putting in the work like they are now.
What would be your piece of advice to anybody that's listening to this and they now want to consider leaving college, high school, private or pro to go into the tactical, whether it be police, fire? What would be your advice?
So speaking specifically on police, like there's really I shouldn't say no, I don't want to speak in absolutes, but very rarely is anybody ever going to say like exercise is bad. You know what I mean? What agencies and things may say is like the resources aren't there. And, there's a lot of things that go into this budgeting. Like this is the government. Like we don't have, it is different with certain things. I would give the advice, and this is kind of what I did and what I would do if I had to start back from like square one is I know it's tough, but volunteering time into a police agency, even if it's just going to to kind of do what I said, like just observe the day-to-days and then offering services if that's a possibility. We do have volunteer coaches that'll come out here because that's kind of what they want to work in. So getting in front of the people that you want to train would be one of the first things I would say, because even though I love it, it's something that I want to continue doing. There's still like cons to everything. Everything has pros and cons, and that can also show you if this is something where you want to pursue. Because I won't lie, like we're just resources. So like if I go to a station and I'm in front of like a roll call, for example, and I'm getting a lot of blank stares and people that maybe aren't crazy about me being there, like I need to understand how to handle that and how to continue doing my job. And that may not be for everyone off of it, just to be honest. It's not knowing how you're going to deal with certain things. So you'll get the experience, but you also see like, is this something I truly want to do? Tactical, I do think I recommend all my friends and peers who are interested to kind of make that jump, especially like as we get older, as families start to come, like quality of life is better. I'm sure every tactical coach on your podcast talked about that. But like, there's still that piece of like, if you love to work in athletics, like you need to know before you make the jump, because my job isn't the training of my job. It isn't like as sexy as it was with a lot of like high level athletes or even high school athletes. You know what I mean? It is a lot more bare bones, and it is a lot more gen pop and building off of that. So I would say get that experience, because you want to know before you completely dive in. I do recommend it to everybody, of course, but you still want to know, the grass isn't always greener. I'm not trying to pursue people off of it. I just want them to kind of get that understanding. And like I said, I told you when I was reaching out and talking to friends, like that's what someone told me was they weren't the gratitude wasn't always going to be there. It's just different. And I did not experience that. So every situation is a little different. So that would be number one. Volunteer some of your time, get in front of these people, and then really just understand like it is bigger than X's and O's. My job isn't about training. I love strength conditioning. It's all I ever wanted to do since I was in the 7th grade. To be a little transparent, I still, of course, look at strength conditioning. I view it, I consume it, but like most of the things that I've done since being at this position has been outside of strength conditioning. It's how to communicate to people going through difficult things that we'll never really understand, or hopefully we never have to understand on a daily basis. How to connect, how to be a little better administratively, all those things so I can better reach those people. So that what I'd say as well is don't worry, like you have your X's and O's, of course, because you don't want anybody to get hurt and you need to be able to spread that, but it's so much more. It really is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I mean, I'm obviously not in it, but like do your research, figure it out. And part of the reason we're doing this rabbit hole, and I've said this on episodes before, is I don't want strength coaches just being like, oh, I'm going to go mail it in. And it's like, no, you're serving people that are serving us. Like we need to make sure that we're giving coaches that want to be there. And I love what you said. It's so simple. I don't know why I didn't think about it. Like, yeah, go, if you want to work with that population, do the same thing that you did here. Go kind of intern, like go volunteer, be like, hey, this is what I have. Like, obviously at first you're not going to be doing much, just like a normal intern would, but that was brilliant.
Yeah, and most agencies will be responding to that. Like as long as you're a professional, you may have to go through like a background and things like that, but it's not like that's an impossible thing. You know what I mean? Like a lot of agencies will have like volunteer programs and things you can look into, but it is a way to get your foot in the door. But I would say always go in. Like this isn't maybe like when you volunteer at like a private facility where you're like, I'll volunteer and then they'll offer me a job. Like it's not that simple. You know what I mean? Like I said, if the budget's not there or whatever things, like there's still too many moving parts to like guarantee you a position there. So really do it because that's what you want to do in your heart. You know what I mean? And, I was transparent about like, I knew I had to move into tactical because, I have a little girl, have a family, and like just the doing collegiate and private coaching at the same time wasn't going to work out. But that's also something I knew I always kind of wanted to do to help these people. Like it's still at the core of it, it's always about bettering individuals, but you shouldn't feel guilty about having a quality of life, having things like health insurance, for example. Like you shouldn't feel bad for that stuff as long as you know you're in it for the right reasons. I don't want people just to be like, oh, it's 40 hours a week and it's not it.
That's exactly the perfect place to leave off, because that's been the message that I've sent, and it was the beginning of the email that I sent to everybody about Chris's episode this week. So Brandon, thank you very much for coming on and sharing and helping coaches out and helping some future police officers. So thanks, brother. You have a great rest of your day.
Appreciate it. You too, man.
Keeping your certification is essential to staying hired as a strength and conditioning coach. Both of our long-form courses, Fundamentals 1 and Fundamentals 2, offer CEUs to the NSCA, the NCSF, as well as the ASCA professional development points. Click the link down below to learn more about our education courses, which are both over 20 hours long and allow you to learn from some of the best practitioners in the field of strength and conditioning.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Why don't you celebrate by watching more videos just like it? You can also help us on our quest to placate the algorithm gods by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Thank you.